AVC Vinyl Tag 2021. It's the first for me, as I've only been part of this for the past 6 months. Seems like an eternity. So let's get right into it. As of course we're gonna have some needle drops, not on all the records, don't worry. So 2020 discovery. Mohamed is a, I think, German band from the mid-late 80s. They're kind of like proto house, new wave, left field post-punk, and they're called Mohamed, and there's someone who sings in Arabic, but I'm not sure there's an Arab in the band. And they were proto acid house. This is the album. This is the EP. And it had the inner sleeves had some merch you could order. And this is really talking to me because in the past 10 years there's been quite a lot of Arabic influenced dance music. This is from like 89, I believe. The Smiley Acid House. Well, this is fantastic. The album is weird, really weird. I don't know if I love it, but it's interesting. Anyways, a quarantine buy, a record I had to buy twice. I really wanted it, so that shows like this was really a quarantine buy. Corneliu Dan Georgescu, Romanian avant-garde experimental music. This was released in, I believe, in the late 70s, early 80s. Modèle Mioritique. This is exceptional. This is really pretty intense music. And yeah, where am I gonna find this apart from online? Anyways, a compilation. No, what was next? Oh yeah, my 2021 find, the record I'm looking forward to getting the most. Well, it would definitely be. I'm not sure I can say because I don't want anyone to be looking for it as well. One record that is more common is an album by Khaled, Cheb Khaled, the Rai singer from. He made most of his career between France, Algeria, and Morocco. I believe Algeria mostly, and Paris. And it's an album called Ya Taleb, and that was released on cassette. There's one vinyl release on Celluloid, which is a French post-punk label. There's one track on it that I really like, that I heard on the tubes. The rest I don't know, and I really want to get this one. So next, a box set. This is what we're listening to right now. This is Roy Montgomery. This is a box set, a triple LP, a compilation called Harmony of the Spheres. The design is amazing. It's on Drunken Fish, which is a New Zealand label. You get 3 LPs each side by one band, so it's basically 6 mini albums. The booklet is fantastic with like interviews, design, discography of all the bands back then. And Roy Montgomery is the local. He's from New Zealand. He's a guitarist with an amazing sound. So you get Border Pond, Flying Saucer Attack, Jessamine, Roy Montgomery, Lauren Mazakan Corners, and the Shara Lambites from Texas, Philly, Bristol, Seattle, New Zealand, New York City, and Houston. All guitar-based bands on the very psychedelic side of like indie, post-rock, noise rock. Amazing object. Next, a concept album. When? The Black Death. This was released in the late 80s on CD and reissued a few years ago on a sub-label of Migo Edition called Ideological Organ, which is run by Stefan O'Malley from Sun. So this is exactly what it sounds like. The Black Death. This is like the soundtrack of the Black Plague of the 13th century. And yeah, well, it sounds amazing. There's a booklet with illustrations about death in these times. It's really a marvelous album. And at first it was an album, I have all of Wen's albums. Wen is a Norwegian post-punk turned weird industrial ambient project, rock in opposition sometimes. Chris Cutler plays on one of the records. And I got all their vinyls, their albums, and they're all great. You could compare them to Guédalia Tazartes, the French absurdist chanteur, and Nurse with Wound, and I don't know. Wen is actually pretty unique design as well. Well, this is an album I think is fantastic, obviously. Next we have an artist, an album where the artist changed direction. Let's give you Dinosaur L 24. Dinosaur L is Arthur Russell, who up until then used to be a minimalist cellist, cello player, who used to do like ambient, modern classical, and sometimes a little bit weird, like he was sometimes in the post-punk industrial scene of New York, but this is a disco album and it's absolutely fantastic. Well, it's disco but funky, like live and with an amazing aesthetic. You can instantly hear that it's actually the previous Arthur Russell, but this is music for the dance floor, and this is a fantastic album. Next, white label promo. I think that most of my white label promos are EPs. I have a few albums but I couldn't find them, so let's go with this. It's a white label. It was used as a promo, but it is a white label. Soft Machine, Live in Paris, Alive and Well. This is later Soft Machine from '79, when all the greatest of the band have left. But let's be honest, they were all great, like Michael Rutledge. So this is more weird, like pulsating crowd rock, almost proto-disco, which these guys went on to do in the early 80s under fake names. And this is quite underlooked, but there's like a long track, like a 12-minute long track, I believe, that is just a pulsating rhythm with guitar solos, but like very stripped down. So it's almost like a proto-Detroit techno record, but from '79. Next we got an album that tells a story, and a personal story. Oh no, first we had a compilation, which is exactly this. Yeah, sorry. The next level. French hip hop. This is from, I believe, '96. This is like the turning point of French hip hop. This is second generation hip hop in France. Still influenced by the US rap, but you can already feel that the kind of flow is very, well, it's its own beast. Very stripped down beats. You can hear, of course, at that point everyone was influenced by Pete Rock for the beats, and but the French slang is starting to take its own way. Like they're not just adapting American hip hop; they're adapting rap to French slang, which makes it pretty wild. Next, an album that tells a story. Kjell Samkopf. This is also a Norwegian guy. This is the best sounding vinyl record I've ever heard. This is beyond audiophile. This is a percussion album with electronic treatments. It's not a private press, but almost. When I got this record, I was so fascinated by it that I tried to get in touch with the guy, and that was the age of MySpace, I believe. And luckily enough, he was on MySpace. We started to chat, and he told me he had 2 copies left of the album and that he would be very happy to send them to me. And at the time I was like, oh, 3 records, even if I already have it. But when I got them, I started to give them away and spread the word, basically. And since then, it's the album that every time I find it, I buy it. I bought maybe 8 copies of it throughout the time, and sometimes I give them away, sometimes I sell them. I think this record should be worth way more than it currently is. But yeah, well, this is the story of it, and it is like on the ambient side of avant-garde with like tuned percussions. The pressing is the best pressing I've ever heard in my life. A record that needs a vinyl pressing. Thinking Plague in Extremis, released on Cuneiform, the American rock in opposition second wave label. Basically, it's like Canterbury rock, Soft Machine, Henrico, and stuff like that, by Americans. This is like prog rock, goes John Fahey, goes Genesis. It's an insane album. Aesthetically, it's a little special, but you could say that it's almost cheesy at parts, but it's so creative that it wins you over, definitely. Thinking Plague in Extremis. The other day we were talking about this with some friends on YouTube. And I thought, like, for years this was an album that was completely ignored. You could get it for like less than $5, and apparently it's not the case anymore. But you can probably listen to it on Bandcamp. Next record, common record. This is a record that is common in France, at least, which is where I'm from, even if I don't live there anymore. Folk Pirate, a French compilation of folk, Cajun music, blues, and it's absolutely exceptional playing, in my opinion. This is Pierre Bensoussan, guitar, 25th January 1975. This came out in 1975, and you can find it for cheap still on Discogs at least. So in that regard, it is a common record. There's many copies. At one point, I think it will end. Next, an uncommon album. The Barons. This is a kind of private press of a proto hard rock band. This is like a stock image artwork, and this is not exactly up my alley, but there's one track on it written by the keyboard player where it sounds like Stairway to Heaven produced by Brian Eno. It's just out of place in the album and totally fantastic. They got a 7-inch as well. The Barons, here is their logo. And it's such a mysterious band that a friend of mine, when I introduced him to this, wrote a fake biography, graphic novel biography of them, and that got published. An EP, I believe. Is it? Yeah. Now we're talking. Eddie Louis. Jazz, modern jazz, spiritual jazz, free jazz. The organ player of European jazz. Eddie Louis was of mixed race origin, which was not that common in European jazz and in France. This is an EP from early '83. It was only released as an EP. This is a track, Taureau, Bull, and this is one of my favorite tracks ever. And this was released as a limited edition EP, only 1,000 copies. Like the kind of records, if you didn't know what it was, like you would totally skip it, especially if you don't know the name. But listen to this. Then what do we have? We have a girl group. One of the few records that I consider almost perfect. The Raincoats. Their 4th album, when they're less punk and more like left field dub. This is like post-punk going to the Caribbeans, and it's absolutely fantastic. It's a bit like this, actually, but post-punk. Then the cover that you love. This is gonna be a weird one. It's not the most beautiful record cover at all. It's quite ugly in a way, but this is a record cover I love. The Latin Rascals, Macho Mozart. This is just a collection of aesthetics that don't go together in such a bad way that it becomes fantastic in my opinion. And I actually made myself a t-shirt of this. So this is like freestyle, proto-Miami bass, and the good tracks are the breaks, the bonus beats, the dubs. Fantastic record. The record you've listened to the most. I don't know if it's the record I listened to the most, but definitely through my teens, like you know when you're obsessed about albums. Scorn. Oops, something happened here. Scorn is Mick Harris from Napalm Death. This is his third album, solo album. This is solo. This is his project after leaving Napalm Death. Napalm Death, grindcore, thrash, and this is like the main instrument here is the mixer, the desk. So it's dub, dark ambient dub with like guitar riffs that reminds you of grindcore, but this is like eye-opening for someone who was into rock music. And the aesthetic was quite strong. This is from '94. And then we got had to get an original. It's a record that I knew was going to be a repressed, reissued, and it got reissued last year, I believe, or this year. This is Saïb Shihab with the Jeff Gilson unit on Futura. Futura is my favorite jazz label. It's a French label, along with Pan Records, which was a Jeff Gilson label. These are the two labels I collect. I don't want everything on these, but I want originals of these. This is absolutely fantastic. And yeah, you get like compositions by Jeff Gilson mostly, and yeah, it's all by Jeff Gilson actually. But you get Saïb Shihab on the baritone saxophone, baritone soprano sax, and then a bunch of French jazz players that are legendary but unknown in the US. The the latest record you bought, Nico, The End. I believe this is her third album. This is the original British pressing, German pressing. It's a nice varnished glossy cover. I got this, I believe, I think it was Friday before Christmas. So that's I haven't bought any new records since then. Then a record that that no one gets, an album they don't get. Music Go Music, Australian band that manages to achieve in perfect taste the most untasteful mashup of music. This is basically as if ABBA had produced Meatloaf, so it's over the top musical hard rock with some disco groove and tons of turns. It's like changing more throughout one song than a medley of King Crimson. And pretty cool cover. Yeah, it's a record, I love it. When I play it at parties, sometimes people go wild and sometimes they boo. An album, a punk album. Well, let's go with Crass, Stations of the Crass. A double album that is, this is the original pressing of this. This is a bit of a strange case because on this record it's not featuring the singer, the female singer, a little more than usual, and it's more groovy. Like some tracks on this, the bass is the focus, and the bass line. So it's kind of like boogie punk, like oi punk. This is very strange. I actually did not a re-edit, but like a rework of one of the tracks that got released on my second or third record, I don't remember. Anyways, and lastly, your favorite 2020 reissue, Yule from Tor Lundvall, which was released in 2006 as a CD. As you can see, totally appropriate for our time of the year. Yule means Christmas. And this is, and even more appropriately, we're listening to the track called January. So this was my 2021 tag, final tag. Never done that before. I think it was Rachel, Davis, and maybe a few others who convinced me to do this. I do this in the record shack here in Sweden where I live and where I press record for a living. I run a vinyl record pressing plant, and the channel is Stunt Rock Confusion. I believe that if you enjoy some of the stuff you heard now, you'll enjoy a lot more of the stuff on my channel. Don't subscribe just for subscribing. Subscribe if you want to be reminded every time I have a new video, and if you want to chat about these. And have a very nice 2021. May it be as beautiful as this. by VC.